Have you ever wanted to purchase rental properties, but feel that you had a whole bunch of obstacles in your way and a learning curve to understanding this industry? If so, you want to listen in to my interview with our Inner Circle member, Tiffany, who has done just that, just closed on her newest property, and we're going to talk all about her story on how she is growing her portfolio. Tiffany, thank you for being here today. How are you doing?
It is a great day, and I'm glad to be here.
Good. That's how we should feel every day, right? So why don't you just share a little bit about you, Tiffany, outside of the real estate investor?
Okay, my name is Tiffany Simmons, and I live in Southern California, and I'm just your typical work 40-hour day person. And that's pretty much me in a nutshell. Getting up in those years where I just became a grandmother and looking into retirement. So that's kind of where I'm at right now and kind of what led me to where we're at now.
Knowing you for probably about a year now, It's funny because when I think of you, first thing that always comes to my mind is positivity. Aww. You are number 2. I always think of you as a team player. And 3, I think of you as a grandma. And that's only because your granddaughter and my daughter are kind of all happened in a similar space. So I feel like so that's interesting that I know you know this, but you're so much more than a person that just happens to be a regular person that works 40 hours a week. I know you know that, but it's interesting how sometimes we see ourselves differently than other people see us. But at what point did real estate pop up for you? Right? Here you go, and you're trudging along at your day-to-day job, right? And you've had the same job for quite some time, haven't you?
21 years.
21 years, right? So that's quite some time, I would say.
Yes.
So if you were just there being that regular person working 40 hours a week, you would have never said, you know what, maybe I should invest in real estate. Maybe I should start looking at something different. Where did real estate pop up in your mind as a thing to possibly even do?
It started before I actually really knew it started. I became what's called an accidental landlord. My mother passed and I inherited her home. I renovated her home and I rented it out for about 6 months. And then I got hurt at work. And so I was out of work for about a year and a half. And in that time, I'm used to being busy. I'm used to working and having a purpose almost, and being out of work. I got antsy and I just got to thinking, what can I do to be productive? And so I just started watching YouTube videos on any and everything. And then all of a sudden it popped to my mind, oh my gosh, I have this rental property. Why don't I try and learn more about what that's all about? And by the way, I live in Southern California, but my rental property is in Montana. So it was in a whole different state. So, and really what started it was taxes. I wanted to see how I could, if there, gain in my taxes with my rental property, learn more about how to do and prepare my taxes. So that's really how it kind of started.
Gotcha. I have to say, after your mom passed and left you that property, which is a very typical space that I see a lot of women becoming landlords, whether they inherit that property there. Sometimes people just sell that property. What had you decide I was going to keep it?
I never crossed my mind to sell it. It was my mother's home. And so for that reason, I wanted to keep it in the family. That was why I never crossed my mind to sell it. But I didn't really want to move there either. I have my son, I thought, well, maybe he would like to move there. And then he became pregnant. He and his partner became pregnant. So that was no longer an option. So, and I've just been very blessed because things have just kind of fallen into place. People have fell into my life. Can I share the story of how I heard about you?
Yeah, of course.
It is so funny. My hairdresser, of all people, she told me, because I was telling her about that I had the house and everything. And she owns her salon, but she also owned an Airbnb, I believe. And she was just kind of telling me how she got into this network called Lady Landlords. And she joined it. And she's like, it's really simple. Just go on Facebook, look up Lady Landlords, blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, I am like hooked on you. Like I on my Facebook page and just it opened a whole world of even more questions and then possibilities of where this could lead. Like I never even thought this could lead to getting me becoming a real estate investor. So yeah, so that's how you came into my life. And it's been a life-changing experience. Being a part of Lady Landlords Inner Circle has really helped me come into my own and help me kind of get to know me better. And I just have found I have a knack for this. I enjoy it. Yeah. And if this is something that I could keep doing and it's going to help me retire and, love on my grandbabies that are in San Francisco when I'm in Southern California, then let's take it and run. So
I love that you said that you didn't kind of realize that the possibilities were out there until you came into the community. For you, once again, you said it was really just keep house in the family, right? And then 2, really just find a couple tax benefits. But it sounds like the idea of really making income or setting you up for the retirement or kind of really next chapter in your life after 21 years of the same job. I feel like those things, I'm really proud that you were able to find our group, and shout out to our members over there in California. We have a ton of Lady Landlords in California, but that's really cool that somebody was able to share with you something that was helping them. And that just opened your eyes into just what this industry can even do for you. By that point in time, though, you'd already renovated the house in Montana, correct?
Correct.
What was that like? And I know you were not out there swinging a hammer yourself in Montana, but tell us how you did those renovations and how you got them done in Montana when you live in Southern California.
Yeah, so of course I had to make a couple trips back there after my mom had passed to clean out the house and things of that sort. And I came across a husband and wife team. And it started out that they were just going to help me with cleaning out the house. We were going to do an estate sale, things of that sort. And lo and behold, I did not realize that she had experience in property management. She was no longer doing it, but she had experience in it. Her husband is a contractor. And my mom used to be a nurse. So I was thinking of maybe doing traveling nurses. And when I mentioned that to them, they kind of let me know that they could help me, get the house ready for this kind of thing. And it just kind of went on from there. And I ended up leaving and they continued the cleanup of the house. It's just crazy. She ended up knowing my stepfather. He used to teach at the junior college and she actually took one of his classes. So they knew my mother and my stepfather.
Oh, wow.
So that's why I say when, certain people just fell into my life and my world and they knew my mom. And so I knew that she would take care of, I just felt okay with letting them continue on with cleaning out the house and things of that sort, placing that in their hands. I don't think I could have done what I've done so far without them, basically.
Absolutely agreed. I'm really happy. I did not know that they hadn't met your mother. I think that is really kind of a little bit of a gift. I think that's something that really is kind of full circle. And I'm very happy. I'm also happy that they've really upheld kind of their side of the agreement, because I feel like, one, not everybody does in life. Let's be honest about that. Sometimes things do not work out. And I would have been really sad for you if somebody that had known your mother had then disappointed you, that you had really entrusted with that property. So I'm really happy that they have turned out to be such really a godsend to be able to support you with that. So they did the renovations out there. How was communication between you and them? Did you guys go over a scope of work? Did they kind of tell you what needed to be done? Did they send you regular updates, or were you just kind of like, cool, you guys are the experts, I guess do it and tell me when it's done?
The last time I went out there, we did do a walkthrough and I did get estimates. So they weren't the only people that when I decided to renovate that I used. And I did 3 estimates. I decided the house had all carpet. I decided I wanted to do away with all the carpet in the house and then just painting and updating. Like the ceiling was popcorn ceiling. So, my mom actually had wanted to do that. So I wanted to remove the popcorn ceiling for her, things like that. Got the estimates. They were very fair in their estimate. And, I knew I kind of had a rapport with them. So why not go with them? And so from there, they took pictures and would send me pictures as they were doing the work. And we did it at a very slow pace too. That was kind of nice too, because it wasn't a rush to get it done so that I could get renters in there to make money. This was something that I just wanted to update the house. I didn't really know what I was, like I said, I was thinking of the nurses, traveling nurses. I really didn't think about long-term rental actually, but then having to get it furnished, that was kind of challenging for me. And while I was doing my research and trying to get things furnished and we were working together. Her name is Brianna. She actually works at a hospital. The hospital where my mother's place is also very close to the hospital, like 5 minutes away from Montana State and the hospital there. So she sat me down one day. We talked kind of once a month, I'd say. And she said, Tiffany, I think I've got some renters if you're open to having renters until we figure out, the traveling nurses thing. That was 2 years ago. And those renters have been the best thing ever, to walk in my life. They've been really neat people, never been late on the rent ever. And once I started generating that rent, that was not expected. And it was all free money. Like I didn't have to pay a bill with that money. I didn't have to do this was money that it was generated from renting the house. I've got great renters. It was a good feeling. And then you came in my life. So all these things kind of happening and the timing that they did happen, kind of The rest is history. There's no stopping me now, I feel.
Well, we're going to get to that. I like that you call it like free money. And you're right. You were employed. You were living in a place. You were able to have the roof over your own head for your own space. You were able to have your own bills covered. You were living your life. So really rental income was a bonus, right? That's like an extra addition. You were really in a spot. And I love that because we talk a lot about in Lady Landlords that we don't necessarily want to be investing every single penny we have, right? We need to have an emergency fund. We need to have a solid foundation to really be investing. So it wasn't like you needed that money to cover your grocery bill, right? Because that would be a very tenuous situation. You were really in a position where you were able to say, hey, I have a life going on. This now gets to be an added bonus. That gets to be a perk now in addition to what was already going on in your life. And I think that was really great. So you then came into Lady Landlords and you kind of hit the ground running, right? Like I know you were very active with kind of being able to read some posts and really, like you said, got addicted to it. But I think where we met was when you started coming to the virtual networking events, if I remember correctly. And I think it was a couple trainings or workshops that I did last summer. There's a big difference between reading posts, right? Responding back, asking questions in a Facebook group, to saying, hey, I'm going to sign up. I'm going to go to a training. I'm going to show up here on Zoom with my camera on, right? I'm going to learn more about this. Do you remember kind of that thought in your mind of saying, okay, hey, I'm ready to stop just reading posts. Now let's be a little active and let's really kind of kick this up a notch? You're shaking your head. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what that was like. Because that could be scary for a lot of people.
Yeah. I feel like I kind of did things backwards because when I did the renovations on the house, I did get a HELOC. I didn't know the power I had at my hands with the HELOC. If I would have known then what I know now, man, I would have done some things differently. Not everything, but I would have definitely done some things differently. Yeah. But that's when the light went off and I saw the power in that HELOC. Like I wanted to learn more about the HELOC and then the different kinds of lines of credit. Like I didn't realize that there were home equity loans. There's a difference between a home equity loan and a HELOC. So then I started, digging in and wanting to learn more about those types of things. And I was getting filled. All my questions were getting answered with Lady Landlords. And then just meeting like-minded women. Well, not even in the same place that still they didn't have, a property that they could pull equity out of. So they had, they were doing things on their own to get that money. They didn't have a property management team. They didn't have all of that. And it just kind of fell into my lap. And I did not want to waste that blessing or that opportunity. So I did become very driven and motivated. And I was a young mother, struggled, single mom. I didn't get a college education, but my son was able to. And this was something that I dabbled into, that I'm learning a new tool, because I was feeling like, oh gosh, he's above my head. I can't teach my son any longer. I can't challenge him anymore, and this gave that back to me, honestly. So being able to bring something to the table for him to see me succeed at and be able to, I feel like I was on that same level. I don't think he feels the same way. I think he feels I was always on the same level. He is a neat guy. We have got a very good relationship, and that is a true blessing. But that is another thing that has driven me also to kind of I found something to kind of dive into and get more knowledge about. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a degree to do that.
It's interesting because I'm hearing kind of two different kind of like ideas that are intertwined in that. And I think you said that really beautifully. I'm kind of hearing one almost like a generational legacy here. It was your mom's property. She left it to you also to make sure that you were taken care of after she passed. Now you really want to pay that forward to your son, right? So now this is already kind of going through multiple generations, which I really think is beautiful. And then two, I'm also hearing a mom also saying it's kind of a turn for me to also learn something for me. Not just do I want to continue to challenge my son, but it sounds like also after everything that you've been through to take care of your son, and kudos to you that he also has that college degree. He didn't get that alone. He did that with your support. But I feel like I'm also kind of hearing like something that Tiffany needed to do for Tiffany. You didn't get to go to college. You didn't get to do those things when you were younger. You get to do it now, though.
You had to remind me of that, Becky. You did. I was always saying when we first started talking, I was always saying, it's about my son, it's about my grandbabies and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, but Tiffany, you got to take care of you first. You got to, make sure that this is what you want to do and then think about them. They're doing okay over here. And that little reminder, you brought that to me, now that he's left the nest, you get that empty nest syndrome a little bit. But that little reminder right now is that you gave me. Now I'm kind of honing in on that muscle. Like I really am enjoying something for me that I enjoy to do. I have a knack for it. I'm growing in it. I'm excelling it, not just growing, but excelling. It is an exciting place to be. And it's new territory almost for me because it has always been about him all of his life. And so it's coming into my own in that way.
And that for me, I have to say the reason why that stood out to me with you is because so many other members of ours are in the exact same boat. I can't tell you how many women I speak to that say, okay, now that my kid is back in school or out of school, whatever it may be, or just they're saying, okay, I'm spending my whole day, packing lunches and reading story time. I can't tell you how often I hear women saying, like, I'm doing this for me. Cool income, cool generational wealth, whatever. But really, this is something that I'm going to own. This is something that mom's going to own. And it's going to be no longer just mom doing something, but now Tiffany the woman doing something rather than Tiffany the mom doing something. But it's something I hear from so many of our members that really drew them to real estate investing as a thing that could be their own, and feeling like that's one of the only things that they've been able to do for themselves in many years. And also really some of the benefits that they want for themselves. I hear, and we talk about this in the inner circle, there's a lot of women in the inner circle that are on also a health journey as well as a wealth journey, right? And it's really interesting because I feel like some of the women that I've worked with and known for years now that don't have the full-time job anymore. Now I hear them saying, oh, I get to go to the gym at 11 o'clock, or I'm able to take my dog for an extra walk because I have that free time. And just really seeing how one good habit for yourself leads to other good habits for yourself. And I think that's really been kind of neat to see over the years.
Yes.
So you came to a bunch of trainings last year. That was already a leap. That was already a commitment to yourself to start participating in some of those activities. Then we talked about really getting you that strategy in place when we did a roadmap session last year. What had you say that was the right for you? Because that's like a whole nother level of commitment.
Oh gosh, when we did that roadmap, something just clicked. Like I felt that it was life-changing. And I think I said it. I wrote to you about it. When you put it on paper like that for me, and I looked at that and I'm like, wow, this really is doable. This really is possible. And then timelines too, having the timelines in there. I think that is a great motivator and drive. And that's something else I've grown in is setting goals and timelines, and then reaching those goals and rewarding yourself when you hit these goals. And that's something that I wasn't used to doing, and it's something that I learned the benefits. And you set goals and you reach them, your conversations change, your outwardness changes. So the way I relate to people as a whole, going to work every day, upbeat, happy, because in the back of my mind, I know that something that I did, during the week that week is going to, result in a goal that I set that I will meet. I just love that piece of my growth as I've grown in the investor world.
I do remember your light bulb moments during that roadmap. I love doing that roadmap session with you and really honing in on what are the strategies, but also what are the steps we needed to take that would be very clear for you to kind of follow. I think it's interesting. I think if we looked back at that now, a year later, I would love to go back and see how many of those things came true.
Oh, I have looked.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And majority of them have come true when we had put the timeline for it to align, but there was a reason for it. Not a line time. It actually worked itself out on its own when it went, and when it did happen, that's when it was meant to happen. So that was something also that I learned too is, you may have a setback. It may not even I may have seen it as a setback, but then you were able to reel me back sometimes if I get into a place like that. Like, for instance, when I returned back to work after being out, we didn't anticipate that when we did the roadmap. So I was kind of beating myself up that I didn't make a certain deadline, but it's because that W-2 job got in the way there a little bit. And that's
your time availability changed.
Yes, exactly. So, growing and seeing things like that as not such a bad thing, but we had a setback, Tiffany, but it's okay because it's not that it's not going to happen. It's just, we've got to work with what we've got,
And think about what would have happened if you had no plan and had to go back to work. Would you be where you are today?
No, not at all. Yeah.
Right. So at least we had a structure, and it was much easier to go back and say, okay, hey, time availability change, timeline, deadlines. Okay, we got to adjust them now. But that's 100% better than being like, maybe I'll start tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that day sometimes never comes, right? Tomorrow is always a day away. So you came into the inner circle. For you, a lot of the place we needed to start was some education, right? And just learning this industry. And I loved you showed up with questions. You showed up with, okay, I learned about this, but can you walk me through how it works? Or, hey, can we talk through a real life example here? Sometimes I see women get discouraged by that because they feel like they don't know enough and they don't want to ask questions. How did you feel going through just that learning curve? Because we kind of said before, sometimes we can even take action. We had to learn the concept, the theory around what those things involved. How did you feel having to really be in that learning phase for a little while?
I became a sponge, actually. I drew resources from you, but then I started listening to podcasts and doing research, watching YouTubes when a question would pop up. And these are things I never used to do. Like if I had a question, try and find a podcast about it or research about it, buy a book about it. I bought a book on HELOCs and credit and things of that sort. And those are things I never really did before, which is weird to me that I never sought out more information when I had a question about something as much as I have learning about being a real estate investor. And I enjoyed doing it though. Every piece of information, every time I would learn something new, it was a bonus. It gets me excited, like it feeds me, it fills me, knowing that's a good way to learn just as well as going to school. And I'm doing it at my pace and I'm making progress. I'm actually applying what I'm learning. When I want to learn it, I'm going to learn it. And then I'm going to apply it when I want to apply it. Whereas when you're in school and you got to take that test, you have to be ready for that test at a certain date. It was okay for me if I didn't know all the answers, but I got to set the pace of when I wanted to have the answers to where I can make that next move. And I think that's how a lot of us learn and grow. And you don't have to go to school to get that. I guess that was my epiphany is I'm doing this. I'm learning it. I'm applying it and I'm doing it on my terms, not in a school setting or a curriculum. I'm building this curriculum with the help of my Lady Landlord friends. Yeah. So it has been a joy.
I love that you touched on this, but I want to kind of draw this out a little bit. Do you know everything about real estate investing?
No.
But you still took action, right? You're shaking your head, yes. I love that. And I just want to, because you were never in a spot where I felt like you got stuck in analysis paralysis. I see a lot of other lady landlords get stuck in that, where they're like, well, I have to know everything. I have to know everything before I can take a step. And you didn't. I was
there for a minute, but I'm telling you that meeting weekly with the inner circle, having something to look forward to and getting those questions answered. Like, I guess that's why being a sponge and then being able to get those questions answered. I think that's exactly what I needed to get me out of that paralysis. I was there, Becky. I was there. I remember my head spinning. And I think it was because I wanted to find that perfect rental. I wanted to find that.
Yeah.
When it got to a point where I was able to start looking at properties, it just wasn't coming quick enough. Like, so I think that helped me kind of come out of that paralysis and feel like, oh, I got to do it right away. Just learn a little bit more about this and that, or watch the modules that when Becky tells you to watch those modules. Don't think that you can, just make a decision without, well, the thing is sometimes you don't know what questions to ask, but the tools that you've given me and having that call to look forward to every week, knowing that, okay, I don't know the answer now, but I'm going to see if I can get the answer there. Having that has always been, I think it also has been what I needed to move forward and keep moving and not.
Well, I think that's the difference. You might have been stuck in analysis paralysis, this week, that week, here and there, but you weren't like stuck in analysis paralysis for 25 years, like some of our other members. Right. And I think that's the difference. You were taking action. You showed up to the calls, you asked the questions, you got the answers. And yes, sometimes an answer brought up another question, right? Sometimes that happens, right? Like, okay, now we understood that. Like, right, we would start talking about like deal analysis. And it was like, okay, now I get the cash flow piece, but wait, there's the expense piece. Okay, now I get the expense piece, but wait, what's a cap rate, right? Like there's always building onto it the more we dive into things. But I feel like that we wouldn't sit there and go and hash through the same topic for week after week after month after month after year. And I think that was a big difference. And it's just, once again, the whole point of what I want to highlight here is that you were able to move forward without having to know everything, right? So you started looking. We decided you were going to stay in Montana where you had another property. What was it like getting to start looking at other properties in Montana?
Gosh, how do you explain it? It was exciting. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. You dream about your dream home or this and that. And I'm actually looking, for that possible dream home rental dream. And it was fun for me. It was fun. And it was something that I spout out what I'm doing or what's going on a little more than I probably should. And this was something near and dear to me. Like when I'm looking at these different properties, I made the list of what I'm looking for, the budget, what method am I using? The Burr method? Am I using the, is it going to be a turnkey? Is it going to be, and that to me was something, another gift. Like I never really had that before, I guess. Yeah. And so it was really fun for me. It was just an outlet for me to kind of give me time and enjoy that me time and getting to know me and what I'm capable of. And, oh man, I got some power here. I got some, I can make a difference, for myself. And that was was very personal looking at properties.
If you went into this and were like, oh my God, I have to find something. Oh my God, I have to buy 2 properties by Thursday, or, oh, this whole thing's going to fall apart, and put all that pressure on yourself, would you have enjoyed it the same way that you do now?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like keeping it light and fun and saying, hey, this is something I'm doing extra in life. And this is something I'm doing for the bonuses, that I'm doing for the extra money, and I'm doing for the self-development. I feel like when you can leave it in that, this is a game, right? It's real life Monopoly, right? I feel like that always just makes it a little bit easier. And it's not a seriousness as, I have to make this work. And I feel like that's kind of when the universe works against you a little bit, because because you're pulling at too many things, right? You're forcing something to happen. And I feel like I've never seen you force things to happen. There were properties that we looked at that you wanted and you wanted to move forward with them, and they didn't work out, but you kept going, And to be honest, I think in the end, you ended up finding things that were actually better than what you kind of had earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
You're shaking your head. You agree? How did
Mm-hmm.
it feel, though, to finally find the thing that you thought was the dream and lose it when some of those deals didn't work out?
I was bummed. One of my first properties that fell in my lap was on the same street as my mother's property. And it was a duplex and a triplex. They were right next door to each other.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And I wanted this bad because I could say that I had 3 units with a duplex, a triplex, and then a single family. So I'd have
So 6 doors.
yeah,
right?
6 doors with three properties on the same street. So I just wanted those just so I could say that, just so I could be able to say that I've got my first deal. This was my first deal, and it fell through.
Yeah.
And for about 5 minutes, I was crushed. But then I had to, dust that off and be like, okay, that didn't work. Maybe it's something we can revisit, but I'm not going to, stay focused on that. I want to go and see what else is out there. What else can I find? Because that was kind of a lift for me. It was fun. Again, that word fun comes in. It was just kind of, fun to be able to say that fell in my lap. It didn't happen, but at least it's a story that I can now tell. But I want to, definitely make something happen. So we've got to keep going. We've got to keep going.
Right. Share with us why that fell through.
My property management team, my husband and wife team, they did the walkthrough because I couldn't be there. And, him being a contractor, he was just like, no, this is just, it's going to be, the work to be done it does not align with your goals, what you're trying to do. So yeah, could he have done the work? Absolutely. But just having that insight as well, they're looking out for me too. And they know my goals. Like, it is crazy how in tune we are when it comes to those kinds of things. Yeah, they were just like, Tiff, if this is, you want to get renters in here and this and that, this is what it's going to take. And I don't think that this is going to be a good fit. And, I also thought to myself, well, maybe not now, but if it stays on the market and, maybe something else, maybe it'll come to pass around my way again another day, type of thing too. So
if it's meant to be, it will be.
Yes.
Right. But it didn't fit with what you were looking for now. And I love how attuned your team is with you. Talk a little bit more about that, because you have found some really great people to work with, to partner up with, to be able to just have that great communication across states, across time zones. It's really been beautiful to watch. What do you think has helped you in building some of those relationships with other members in the inner circle, with your attorney, a CPA, with, this husband-wife team? What do you think's helped you with that?
That is one thing, is you have to have courage. You have to do the footwork. You have to make those phone calls. And that was another thing too, like looking for a realtor or looking for a lender. You can't be afraid to call and not know all the questions that that you think you should know to be able to pick what lender you want to go with. And then I think that's where Lady Landlords comes in, because those tools you have given us, the questions, you've given us the questions to ask. And through those questions, we get the answers and we make the decisions. It's almost like, for me, it happened and I didn't really know it was going to lead to me being able to, confidently pick that lender. You gave the tools there. You have the list of questions. You have the spreadsheets for us, and I think a lot of people get scared to jump out and start making those calls. And each call gets easier and easier too. The more you do call, and then also when you're able to talk the language, LTV or ARV, and know what that means, and W-2, that has been fun too. Another, aspect that I enjoy is being able to have a conversation with someone that's also in real estate and being able to, hang tough with them. That's a neat thing to see about myself, see me grow in myself.
I love that. And I love that it's something that the more you do it, the more you learn. right? The more comfortable you become, the more confident you become in it. That's really interesting. Actually, earlier today, I was updating my abbreviations and real estate investing terms and definitions worksheet. So any of our listeners that need that, just put the word terms down in the chat box and I'll make sure to send that over to you. Tiffany, you're clearly going to get the new version, the inner circle. But that was something that, because I think it is really important to call a lender and then have them start throwing out these acronyms. And you're like, I don't even know what we're talking about here anymore. That gets very difficult to ask questions and to learn more about. And then you don't want to pick up the phone and talk to the next person. So I'm glad that that's helped you. I'm glad it sounds really that your confidence has increased in this. Every phone call gets you just a step more comfortable. And even where you are now, like there's still more to learn. And that's the beauty of this business. And there's so much in real estate that we can do and should do, and that are really possibilities. And your vision, Tiffany, is going to continue to grow as you move forward in this business. But let's talk about the fun part. So that deal didn't work out, but you found a property. Tell us about the property you just closed on.
We've been looking, my realtor and my property managers, that story alone, that's a cute story too, but yeah, they were out there doing the footwork. So the way I met my realtor, Jamie Rindall, is she had reached out to me asking if I would like her to send me the comps for my first rental. And she sent them to me. And I said, what do I do with this? What do I do now? I didn't really know what to do. And it was just an innocent conversation like that. And then I told her the story about how I got that house, and I wasn't looking to sell it. I was looking actually at other houses to purchase. And so I think when she found that out, our whole conversation changed, and she started giving me information on homes out there and picking my brain for what my goals were and things of that sort. So that's how I met her. And we clicked. Like there was just something about, we had a lot of similarities with how we grew up and things of that sort. So our first conversation turned into like, I think a 2-hour conversation. And it was, we talked the whole time, there were no, yeah. So it was a great connection. And then I introduced her to my property manager, and she took it and ran with it and started just, looking at properties. And I would send her a property. Hey, can we look at this property? And my property manager, I would go through her first. What do you think about this one? She's like, absolutely not. That's a bad neighborhood. Not good. And so then the two of them came together and we made a list of all the properties we were looking at, and they were going every week. And we found this one property, and it was I was actually looking for something to renovate, because I wanted to do the BRRRR method. I had decided on that. And this property already had renters. It didn't need any renovating. And I was just like, I don't know if this is a good fit for what I want to do. And they're like, yeah, Tiffany, this is actually, this is actually once, this doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
Falls in your lap. And so they kind of had to convince me a little bit that you want to take a moment and real close at this one. And then, we all agreed that this is something that we wanted to move forward on. So that's kind of how that happened. I do still want to try BRRRR method. I definitely do want to, but I'm glad I got a turnkey and a multifamily property too. It was more than I was expecting for my first actual purchased rental property.
That goes back to really working with your team, making sure that they understand what you're looking for. And I love that there was that open dialogue of, hey, I know this isn't kind of what you said you wanted, but this is actually an opportunity, Tiffany, based on everything you've said, everything we know about you. And I love that it was something that you were open to looking at, but also that they felt comfortable bringing to you. Some other realtors might be like, no, I'm not going to even discuss it with them, since they didn't say that's what they were looking for. And I love that really you kept that open dialogue, that you were open to their ideas, but they really also understood what your end goal was. So they saw another way to get you from point A to point B that maybe you didn't see at that point in time that they did. And I think that's fantastic. And I'm looking forward to that next one with the same team, that BRRRR. What were you going to say there?
There was another property that was probably quite a bit amount cheaper than the property I went with, but it did need a little bit of work. Not a lot, but a little bit of work. And the one thing my realtor would say is, these guys aren't afraid. work. She was very impressed with the fact that,
Yeah.
certain projects were, like plumbing projects and things of that sort, did not sway them away. They were like, oh yeah, we could do this. I did forget to mention that. So it did come down to those two places. And I had some sleepless nights because it was cheaper, but it was going to need a little bit more work. But when you got to crunching the numbers, and that's another new thing I like doing too, is crunching those numbers.
Yeah.
And I saw the difference in the cash flow and the different potential, the appreciation, between the two and things of that sort. I had no fear in going for the more expensive, not being as conservative. With this one, I could have probably got enough funds to put a down payment on that house, fix it up, purchase it, then fix it up, and then maybe have a little bit left over. With the other house, though, I was going to have to put all hands in and do the same. But when I crunched the numbers, it made sense to go with the more expensive property. And there's no looking back. I'm glad I did it. And it was a good decision.
It was. And what I loved was that you also brought that situation to the inner circle and said, hey, here's my conundrum, right? I could do this one that's cheaper and that leads me to X, or hey, I could do this other one that's more expensive and it leads me to Y. And not only did you get kind of my opinion about it, and we got to talk it through and talk about pros and cons of it, and you had your realtor and the property manager team, but you also had the other ladies in the inner circle that also you've gotten to know and that buy property and that their experience, that are also moving and shaking and doing things. And we all got to kind of look at it and share our opinion about what we were going to do. And what I think is cool is it's not, oh, well, I would do this, so therefore you have to do this. But we're all able to kind of share our experience and our opinion and how we would handle something. And then you, Tiffany, the CEO of your business, gets to then decide what's the right fit for you. And I feel like that's what helps with you being able to make those confident decisions, is because you've talked through it. You've heard what other people can do. You have the knowledge, the information, but yet you are in control to make confident decisions. And I think that's kind of the beauty of kind of what we do. So let me ask you this before we wrap up here. Since you found Lady Landlords to today, what do you think has changed the most for you? How has Tiffany changed?
I would have to say being committed.
Yeah.
The commitment, and it hasn't gotten old. I look forward to my Wednesdays. Yeah. And I focus, that day is exclusively for real estate. And it has to be something pretty important for me to sway away from that. And I haven't always been that way. Just staying committed to something, but not just committed. It's been, I get a lot out of it. I'm trying to think of how something I can compare it to, like maybe working out, and then you see, your pant sizes get smaller and smaller. You see the results and the potential by, and it's something that I still look forward to. It doesn't feel like work, I guess. Where I guess before I thought, in order to be successful or stick with something, it may be uncomfortable. It may be something that you don't want to do or participate in, but you got to do it to get that ending result. No, I think that this is something that I've found that I am able to commit to and continuously get something out of it. So I think that has been a big change for me, is just finding that something. For some people it's reading, for some people and for me it's real estate investing. So
it reminds me of like the endorphins you get from the gym, right? That like the little bit of that like happy drug that like makes you happy, that even though you didn't want to drag yourself out of bed, even though you didn't want to go to the gym, even though you did not want to do another squat, when you leave the gym, you feel good. You feel happy, right? And that's your endorphins. And I feel like you show up to the inner circle for like your hit of like your hit for the next week to make you feel good.
And also too, it's all about me. It's something for me that getting to know me better. I never have really taken time. I think a lot of us women, we don't take that time for ourselves to pamper ourselves or continuously feed us with something that we're getting something out of. And I found that having the inner circle to look forward to every week and seeing these same like-minded women that I think have the same enthusiasm about Wednesday nights, like spending my Wednesday with them. I think that is key. I think that if you can have something like that, embrace it. I have to say too, it wasn't always the change. I didn't usually lean on the girls in Lady Landlords like I do now. You used to have to remind me, Tiffany, you can pose these questions on the call. This is something that this is a forum where we want to discuss these things, you know, because I would reach out to you and you'd have to kind of almost pry out of me to share, you know, in the beginning.
Yeah.
And now I love seeing some of the new faces and seeing that, you know, I was once there, and now being able to kind of root these ladies on and encourage them and give them that same confidence. I was once there. So I think that's going to be another new joy that I'm going to find in this new year to come with Lady Landlords.
And I'm glad you do that, because the questions you have, other women have too. And just like you said earlier, sometimes you don't know the questions to ask. And that's why I always encouraged you to share in the forum. And I get it. Sometimes it's hard. You don't want to ask a question and be like, oh, am I the only one that has this question? Oh, my question's probably really dumb. Everybody else probably knows the answer. But your questions were always such good situations that I was like, Tiffany, we want to discuss this as a group, because you're not the only one thinking this. You're not the only one that wants to know the answer to this. And let's also hear how other people handle a similar situation, because there's really just so many different ways that people act and follow through and can understand things. And I think that's really what makes the beauty of a community within that. So, Tiffany, thank you. I appreciate you coming on the Lady Landlords podcast today. Thank you very much for being here and sharing your story and continuing to inspire all of us. We'll have to have you back on after the burr and talk about how that plan went. So thank you very much. I appreciate you donating your time to our community here at large.
It was my pleasure, Becky. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, ladies, please do make sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss the episode of the Lady Landlords podcast. We release new episodes every single Tuesday. And if you enjoyed today's episode, and I know you did, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. What that does is that actually helps other women find our community and get the support that they are also looking for. Thank you so much, and see you all back in the Lady Landlords Facebook community.
Thank you for listening to the Lady Landlords podcast. If you're feeling stuck in your real estate investing journey, visit lady-landlords.com to book a 15-minute orientation call with me and see if you're ready to join our mentorship program. Or you can subscribe to our newsletter and join our Facebook group for exclusive real estate investing tips and offers. Invest with confidence. Become a Lady Landlord today.